Hello everyone, and welcome to what is both the first video of this channel and the first video of my first Jurassic World Evolution 3 park build, the Hunter Valley PaleoZoo. In this episode I'll be building the park's entrance building, as well as the first enclosure for the new species Ornithomimus. The idea for this park is for it to feel like it could feasibly exist in the real world, both in terms of scale, so none of the giant sauropods, as well as what species could be realistically cared for. So you can expect a lot of the smaller and medium dinos, as well as an almost entirely modular built park, very much built for show and not for game functionality. Now, before we get into the speed build, a quick warning: I accidentally did not record a part of the build. The recording software I used at first only recorded for a max of 2 hours, and I didn't know that. So the entrances, gardens you would have seen, and the start of the enclosure will not be included in the speed build. So very sorry about that, but as we can see here, the speed build has started. So coming in over here, I decided to base the entrance building for this zoo on the Adelaide Zoo's building, which there should be an image popping up about now. And yeah, so nice big open area. Over here, what we're building now is what's on the far right of the enclosure of the entrance. If you're looking at it, what will eventually be a gift shop. I was going to start that, but we don't have those, in Planet Zoo, which I'm very much familiar with. There are lots of great workshop pieces of like plush animals, but I just don't feel like we have the pieces in the game yet. Those nice small pieces that can make whatever you want to make. So currently that's going to be left blank, but once we get those pieces or someone figures out a way to make those lovely modular built plushies, we'll build a proper gift shop interior in there. Just using the skylight glass pieces, sadly the only transparent glass pieces in the game. I'd love more glass pieces. I think the selection of building tools in this game and pieces is a lot more than I was expecting, but would have been nice to have a few more glass pieces and a few smaller rocks. You'll kind of see that later when we get into doing the foliage and rock work of the enclosure. But a lot of the rocks in this are just like really big. I'd love like a few of the cladding style rocks that we see in Planet Zoo, but anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Over here I'm building a nice little facade over here along the middle of this, what will be like the guest walkthrough, using some of the fossil pieces there and just matching that up with the concrete colour. I know I was talking about the transparent glass, but I also do really appreciate these opaque glass pieces that I'm using here just to give the illusion of office buildings and stuff for staff to, the people in the park that would work in finance, marketing, all of those kind of jobs that are required for a zoo to function that you don't really think about. So I'd like to, lore-wise, they'd be working up in there. But yeah, so just sinking that building there was just a bit too high. My personal sense of scale, I felt a bit too big, so just sink that into the ground. Just using some of the statues. The statues are the correct size of the dinosaurs, I've checked that, so really good for getting a sense of scale without having to actually incubate anything. Just popping down one of those and seeing where they go. Over here, just using the path, kind of planning out roughly where the gardens are going to go. We end up ditching that though, and just putting a bit of structural support underneath there. Yeah, so here I'm checking the parallax windows. None of them really felt officey though, so just gonna leave those blank. And then that's where I discover I've been using the California color grading and fix that, and it just looks so much better. Works with some parks, but personally I just like that clean, no filter look. And over here, just building deleting that path like I said, and trying to work out what I'm going to do. Yes, that's me looking at the reference image of the entrance there, and working out the ticket area where guests would come into the zoo, buy their ticket before heading off into the rest of the park. Again, just not quite happy with the scale, moving that back a bit. And here I'm trying to work out a little interior, use the plaster. I don't love the pinkish colour the plaster initially has. I changed that here to white. Just looks a lot nicer, more realistic, I find, and that's me realizing it's a flattening foundation. Whoops. So yeah, using some of those plaster panels there just to create a bit of an interior. And these tile pieces over here just to floor this entrance plaza. I absolutely adore the tile floor pieces. So good. Tiles in Planet Zoo. Absolute nightmare having to use workshop items, but just having Just a plain tile floor. Amazing. Over here, building the back. I'm just getting a nice colour of bamboo there to make a facade along here. I do double it up because it was just poking it. Some of the concrete was poking out a little bit. And I think it looks quite nice having that double layer of the wood there. So those concrete beams give it a bit of structural support so it's not floating. And yeah, we go around over here, finish that. I'm just finishing adding some of those beams there. And working again on that ticket booth. You'll notice I start something, then do something else, and then go back to that. I'm all over the shop, but I'll try to keep up in my narration. Just adding a few of these metal beams. These are one of my favourite pieces in the game. And then just some of those corrugated iron fence to create like a illusion of a roller door. Yeah, I try to put in some chairs, but it's just nothing like roller chair that I felt, so I just left that blank for now. And just finishing over there with the wall of the back. And adding the rest of the glass for the gift shop. A lot of zoos have gift shops right by the entrance/exit. You know, for marketing purposes. Kids leaving with their mum and dad are like, oh look, I want to get a toy on the way out, and, you know, guilt tripping. And I can't imagine a dinosaur zoo would not do the same thing, so just got to put a gift shop there. Then just meddling with the columns, fixing up the tiles, making that interior all nice and empty, but that's okay, I'll fix it up later. Moving here, adding a drain. Do that for drainage, don't want it flooding. Nobody likes a flooded entrance. So using these great pieces, which are amazing. We had those in Planet Zoo, but I just love the great pieces. Work well for vents, drainages and pools, all kinds of stuff. Okay, and over here, I'm adding the entrance to the gift shop on the park side, and again using those plaster pieces to fill in that wall. And over here, I make a custom door using these like little pipe pieces scale down. Just flip those around and they create a lovely modern looking door handle. Since we don't have any transparent doors, go make them by hand, but that's okay. And what am I doing? Alright, yes. Plant props. Oh yeah, looking for the bollards over here just to block that off a little bit. And yeah, he was playing with adding a fence for like security, but there's just nothing that really fit there. And closing off using some of those concrete pieces over there just to block off the wall there, give it an actual wall. And here I was just feeling that the roof was a bit flat, so using those skylight pieces, create a nice little custom angled roof over there just to give the top of the building a bit of interest, rather than just being a flat concrete box. And I know you got the concrete underneath there, but you barely see it, and it's just there to give the illusion of there actually being stuff there, visual interest. And using some of the corrugated iron pieces to create a trim around that, an angle. I love the amount of different types of like corrugated and concrete that we have in this. It's really great starting roster of scenery, as a lot of people have said. Really hoping that DLCs for this game are going to take a Planet Zoo style. It's just because scenery is great, but the more scenery you can get, the better, just to be able to... Nice, more beam pieces I feel like are lacking, and glass, as I've said. But yes, checking my reference image again there, over here. Thing of Jurassic World, I do change this to the PaleoZoo sign you'll see in the cinematics. But yeah, using the neon lights to create light, but the only piece that emits light in day, if you're trying to struggle with indoor lighting, the neon pieces are the only thing you can really use, I found. I know, I might make a ceiling light blueprint for the workshop using the neon lights maybe. But yes, over here, we're about to have the jump over here, just making a quick little herbing piece, just a concrete and a plank, to contain the gardens. See on there, I do delete quite a few of those. As you're seeing, go for like a half open, half closed look. You should see in a second because it just didn't quite line up. And then I was like, you know what, that looks pretty good. Right over here, this one obviously is where the T-Rex statue ends up. And that's, yeah, we've cut over here. So, see that, planned the enclosure to be a little bit bigger, it's feeling a bit small. And using the invisible fences to keep them aligned. You'll notice we won't use a lot of grass, so that's a... Sorry, we won't use a lot of grass in the herbivore enclosures, just because in a lot of zoos, you probably notice, like especially in hoof stock, they just trample the grass, so you see a lot of dirt, a lot of sand, and I'll try to replicate that as much as possible while still looking good. The viewing gallery you see right there, that will be on the workshop, as long as all the fences they see in this part, in the speed build, and the Ornithomimus shelter, when we get to making that. Over here, just making a nice little glass fence for like a more closer viewing that's like not sheltered. Glass for like kids view and stuff there. Struggled with this fence a little bit, making it fit in there. Went for like a darker wood tone at first, but that wasn't really working. So yeah, and using the skylight piece rotated 90 degrees. And you see I'm just placing that by the Ornithomimus for a bit of scale. And end up going with, yeah, these square wooden beams. Another amazing piece. I just wish they were like straight and didn't have all the wobbles in them. But other than that, like, probably the best wooden beam piece we have right now. So yeah, just bring that around. Over here, that does get moved a little bit, but yeah, we'll change this fence again to have a bit more wire, and then modifying it to make a back wall style fence. And just pushing it back a little bit. Give a little space between that and the path. Coming around. So that over here. I'm just going back to adding in those herbings over there. Now you'll see here that the two of the Ornithomimus escaped. I did not realise that. As I said, I'll fix this fence. And you will now see me go on a wild goose chase once I notice they're gone. I'm trying to work out how they got out. And working out whether there's a problem with the fences I've used or if I just deleted a part of the enclosure by accident. And yeah. There we go, so I'm trying to turn on like feeding water requirements, seeing if they'll go to the water and the food. They didn't. What happened is, you saw as I deleted a little bit, when I deleted the invisible fence to realign it, they got out, that's okay. Now moving on to the shelter here. Using a little brick layout, and it's, yeah, again, not convinced about this dinosaurs getting out. It sees a few of those foundations for a little like outdoor shelter for the dinosaurs, and just adding a few of those tree cages to protect them from browsing from the Ornithomimus. And just using a different colour there, asphalt, to separate the dinosaur area from the keepers, along with some nice two-tool chain link fences. I started with the bamboo, but end up changing that, like I get rid of those cypress trees there. Over here, so yeah, just testing out different trees. And over here, I think I land on the elm trees, the pinnate elm. You put a sapling in that one, and then scale up the smaller mature tree. And then, like I said, change that to, we use a collection of the wood piece, the wood 2, and the panel pieces, and I kind of base this off of Taronga Zoo in Sydney's giraffe house. They have those like kind of like wooden paneling over, wooden slats over the white paneling. I thought that looked quite nice. Replicate that here, and then I again pull out my favorite metal beam, if you're struggling with finding trim pieces, they're all under post. I found all the good ones, so I was doing it first. I was looking up beam, and I'm like, where is everything? They're all called posts. So there you go. And like I mentioned when putting down the asphalt, making a little shelter over here. So just making a little frame out of those beams and angle it like that. Let's give it a bit of an overhang. I end up using the wooden arbor, that kind of like slat one there, just to give them a little bit of shade. They also have the trees as well, but just like that, and then I give that a little bit of overlap. Lovely. And then over here I'm making a door using some of the corrugated iron panels, and then this like electrical bracket thing over there, which I just thought looked like a nice handle to the door, like it would be like opened by a remote as well. Over here I start working on the roof, and I stupidly think that the 0.5 by 2 is less steep than the 1 by 4, so I go on a big thing placing all those. I'm like, hang on, this is just the same slope. And then I immediately get distracted and start building a backstage area for the keepers that's front facing. One thing I will say I love about the props, another great thing, is there are so many backstage. See, I add some aircon units, an electrical box in a second, as well as bins and all kinds of stuff here. A green bin and a brown bin. In zoos, brown bins are used for animal waste, so all the Ornithomimus poop would go in there if you're looking for a bit of realism. Green bin for botanical waste, brown bin for animal waste. So yes, there, and using some corrugated roof there for a bit of realism. As alluded to in the name, the Hunter Valley PaleoZoo, set in the Hunter Valley region in New South Wales, Australia. And so just for a bit of realism, I've used the actual colour of Colorbond, one of Colorbond Steel's colours, which is the main provider of steel in Australia. And if you're looking for realism in that, you can just go onto their website, and they have all the hex codes for all their steel colours there. Lots of lovely natural looking steel colours there, and you can just copy and paste that into your FlexiColor panel there, and you'll get the exact colours. Here we're working on the back of the Ornithomimus shelter, and then a door and windows and all that kind of jazz, again using those beams. Yeah, again using the skylight only glass piece. I would love more transparent glass pieces, I can't say it enough. These are good, but they just have a bit of a tint, and they're massive. There we go. Adding a few blinds there so you can still look inside but don't have to do a proper interior, because with the way first person mode works in this game, you can't actually get in there. So you just needed an illusion of that. I'm going over here, adding the rest of the fencing around the back. I end up deciding that it just feels a bit too small here in a second, which you see, yeah. So move that back a bit, give it an angle. Give the Ornithomimus just a bit more space. Add another tree guard, and just fix up that fence over there. And do a little bit of terrain editing around. And just fill that up. Make sure that you can't see the wires, because they can't get any shorter. And start working here on the guest area. Over here on the right side of the enclosure. Again, realise that I haven't changed the rest of the fence when we changed it, so I fixed that up here. Just around like that. Lovely. And then fix up the back of the fence here to align with that. And just covering up those posts there. Beautiful. Right, and then testing out some trees along the back. I tried the foliage brush, but just, I don't know, it felt a bit too chaotic for City Zoo. So yeah, end up just going with the modularly placed plants. Speaking of which, I'd love for like campaign mode and challenge for the modular plants to count as cover and pasture depending on what they are. I think that would be great, because they're the same plant types as you get in those foliage buckets, but they just don't count, which is really annoying if you want to spend the time in your challenge modes or campaign actually designing the plants in your enclosure. And then over here using the saplings. I absolutely adore saplings in both this game and Planet Zoo. Just great for lining fences, and I decide to add one more Ornithomimus. I reckon we have the space. And that, making sure that all aligns up. And then working onto the foliage now. Over here I'm using the Russian prickle bush or something like that, as well as the thyme bushes, common reeds, wattle bushes. And over here, yeah, what I was talking about at the beginning with the rocks, they're just all huge. This was the best rock I could find for just tracing over the terrain elevations, which has helped to highlight them and give the enclosure a bit more interest, you know, show off where the terrain elevates and stuff like that. I do remove collision on these just because the paths the animal's taking start to get quite repetitive. Another little nitpick, but I would love them to be able to walk on rocks. Feels kind of silly that they can't, considering they can do it in Planet Zoo. So yeah, remove the collision there. And then I use the tiger pasture brush, which I love. It's my favourite of the foliage buckets for this kind of park. It has a nice dead grasses in it as well, which just feel a bit more realistic. And adding in some nettles over here, you'll see I use a technique which, if you've played Planet Zoo, you'll be very familiar with, where you put two down on a line to surface, make a group, then place them all across the habitat in the group, and then once you're done placing them, which I should be in a second, yeah, just sink them into the ground, and they're just super quick, super easy, and you get lovely like grasses that kind of flow with the terrain. It's adding a few other bushes in there, looking for like more prickly and hardy plants that look like they could survive being in a herbivore enclosure, because realistically they would be eating a lot of this foliage. So plants that are like adapted to survive, that kind of things. Just a few little more thyme bushes in there. And then here I am looking for ungulate and herbivore feeders, because that's what we're making right here, a food trough to hang off the side of the building. And this is also will be on the workshop alongside the water trough I make after this. So yeah, it's another example where beam pieces would be great, because these are just a bit too thick for my liking, but that's okay. We get pretty close. Line up over there, and then using the dry bushes in here to look like hay. Let's put a few there, and a few up there to give it a bit of texture on the top. Check that height with the Ornithomimus over there. It's looking good, so to put a bit of them on the ground to look like a spilled food. And as mentioned here, working on the water trough. I do feel like the feeder turned out better than this just because of the thickness of the beams, but could be worse, could definitely be worse. So yeah, let's put that over there. A little beam across the bottom. And just place that along the back wall there. Well, we are getting to the end of the speedbuild now, just adding a few more trees, a few more reeds. Add one more. Oh, I think there's like 2 more trees I add in the enclosure, and then I do the around the edges and add this little sign over here, the herbivore sign, scale that down and put that in the middle there. And yeah. Finish up the curbing around here. Yeah, saplings. Make a little custom eucalypt tree. Just finish up the foliage around there. Use some saplings as bushes. And then, yeah. So that's pretty much the end of the speed build. I really hope you've enjoyed this. if this is a park series you're interested in keeping on, please come again, and if this build's inspired you or you enjoyed it, a like and a subscribe would be greatly appreciated. Enjoy the rest of the build and the cinematics. I hope you've had a great time watching, and until next time, goodbye.